for a lot of people around the country, as you'll know, that hair loss is not an uncommon thing in men and women, and it can be caused by a variety of medical conditions, be it cancer and treatments from that result in hair loss, or alopecia or other conditions. So lots of people suffer from it, and thankfully there are measures in place from the state to, I suppose, to help people who want to obtain wigs or hair pieces to cover that hair loss or to make them feel more comfortable or whatever it might be. We have had progress in this area in recent times, where Minister for Social Protection, Heather Humphreys, has put in place a €500 grant for those people who suffer from alopecia to allow them to obtain a hairpiece or a wig. Previously there was no support for them at all. The support was only provided for cancer sufferers. And cancer sufferers, as you'll be aware, Minister, usually avail of a medical card service, and through that there is a facility, again a grant, to allow them to purchase a hairpiece or a wig. Now, this issue has been brought to my attention by Aidan Fitzgerald, who is a hair salon owner in Blackrock in my own area. Now, Aidan is an award-winning guy. He's been there for over 40 years, and he has a very established business. One of the things he does is specialising in hairpieces and wigs, and he brings them into the country, fits them to people, gets wigs that fit them and that suit them and all the rest, because obviously, as we all know, hair comes in all kinds of shapes, sizes and all the rest. These wigs are not made in Ireland. They have to be imported. They are, as I understand it, generally made in China, but they take different forms. There are synthetic wigs, and there are wigs made of real hair that's been donated. And there are different types of hair, obviously, depending on whether you're European or Asian or African or whatever it is. So the wig has to be specific. But they come either as, there are also synthetic ones which are slightly cheaper, but for many people who are particularly suffering from long-term hair loss, they prefer to have a wig that is natural hair. Now, so they have to be imported. It's not the case, for example, that any of them is made here in Ireland, or that there is an Irish wig manufacturer, although there are charities here who deal with hair, for example, for construction of the wigs. The difficulty that arises is that because they have to be imported, there's a standard cost, and in fact, many of them come through the UK, but either way there has to be VAT and duty paid on them, so that there is a cost associated with them. And the grants that are available through the medical card are there to assist people. Now, the costs involved, as I understand it, range for a synthetic wig from about €650 to €750, a real wig for about €1,000 to €1,500, and obviously there are different factors that would affect the cost. You can also get bespoke wigs, but you're talking about €3,000. They generally don't, they're generally not chosen by cancer sufferers, because oftentimes the hair will have grown back by the time the wig has been made specially. The medical card scheme, however, puts in place a regime that allows people to claim different amounts depending on where they are in the country. So, for example, here in Dublin, in my own area, the grant under the medical card is from €635 to €700, which doesn't cover the full cost very often, but it's a substantial part. However, if you're in Carlow, that grant is €440. If you're in Kilkenny, it's the same, but in Tipperary, it's €500. In Cork, it's €450. In Clare, it's €500. In the Naas area, for some reason, €767. And there seems to be a terrible discrepancy here. Aidan himself told me that just yesterday he fitted a wig for a lady from Wicklow, and she got a grant of €650, but a lady from Wexford in the same day only got €440. There's no good reason for this. I cannot imagine why, because the wigs are coming in, they're not being made locally, they can't be bought locally. There seems to me to be no good reason why there shouldn't be a standardised grant for people who are, in this instance, mostly cancer sufferers, because alopecia sufferers don't avail of this grant. Cancer sufferers all over the country should get the same amount of money from the medical card scheme. They should get the same access to wigs and hair pieces. It's an important part of their ability to deal with whatever they're going through during treatment or whatever it is, and it's important that they should be allowed equal access to the grant.
Thank you, Senator Ward. Minister Behan.
I wish to thank Senator Ward for raising this important issue today, and for giving me, on behalf of the Minister for Health, the opportunity to clarify the position in relation to provision of wigs and hairpieces by the Health Service Executive under community-funded schemes. The HSE provides many aids and appliances, and through its community services, and it endeavours to meet needs in an equitable way within available resources and given the many demands. Provision of wigs and hairpieces by the HSE to patients who are being or have been treated for cancer and other illnesses is operated by means of a grant or voucher system administered by the community healthcare organisations or CHOs. Patients can select their preferred wig or hairpiece, and the HSE refunds the service users or the service provider up to the value of the voucher issued. The HSE established a community-funded scheme service improvement programme in order to standardise HSE provisions of aids, appliances and related items, so that irrespective of where someone lives, they have access to the same item as people in other parts of the country. The HSE established an expert group for post-mastectomy products, wigs and hairpieces, whose work includes a review of the provision of wigs and hairpieces. The expert group is a subgroup of the aids and appliances workstream of the community-funded schemes services improvement programme. The expert group comprises clinicians and operational staff. It engaged in consultation with service users, including participation in focus groups. It noticed significant variations in what is currently provided, including current allowances for wigs and hairpieces. The expert group made initial proposals in 2019 for the development of guidelines by the Health Service Executives to standardise the grants paid. The work of the expert group was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as clinical staff were redeployed to deal with the demands of the public health crisis. However, in 2021, the expert group furnished a draft summary of the proposed national guidelines for the provision of wigs and hairpieces and for the provision of post-mastectomy products. The finalisation and implementation of these guidelines in 2022 should address the inequity of provision on a geographic basis that has been a real problem for many years now. And in addition, the standardised provision recommended ensures that the approval process and the associated administration should be simpler to operate. The HSE recognises that the COVID-19 pandemic has created added difficulty for cancer patients, including the absence of a facility for wig fittings. To address this difficulty, the HSE put in place a temporary measure whereby each patient affected by the absence of wig fittings is being provided with an additional funding of €80 to facilitate the purchase of up to 2 pieces of headwear. I wish to commend the HSE for introducing additional measures to support cancer patients. It is essential that such patients are not subjected to any additional worry or stress at what is a very, very difficult time for them. Finally, I wish to see the implementation of the new national guidelines for the provision of wigs and hairpieces as quickly as possible. Again, Senator Ward, I want to thank you for raising this issue, and it looks as if there has been a lot of work ongoing, and I hope again that this will be dealt with as quickly as possible.
Senator Ward.
Thanks, Minister. And look, I really appreciate the fact that you've acknowledged that there is an inequity of provision in the geographic basis. To my mind, there shouldn't be. And I appreciate the fact that, as I say, we've made progress in respect of alopecia sufferers who previously had no relief. But it's really important that people who are suffering from hair loss for whatever reason have the option to obtain a hairpiece or wig that's going to help them deal with the issues they have to deal with. I also appreciate what you said about the need for the implementation of the new national guidelines as quickly as possible. Those who are suffering from hair loss need solutions. We should be helping them irrespective of the reason for that hair loss. And I applaud what you've said, and I look forward to the implementation of the guidelines in short course.
Thank you very much, Senator Ward. Minister,
again, I want to thank you, Senator Ward, for raising this important issue today. And the HSE again is working to standardise the grants available for wigs and hairpieces, and based on the work done to date, an expert group has made a proposal for the development of the guidelines by the HSE to standardise the grants paid. And you're absolutely right, somebody in Wexford that is getting €200 less than somebody in Dublin. It just doesn't add up. While the finalisation of these guidelines, as I said, was delayed by COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of significant work has been done and improvements have been introduced in a number of areas. In particular, I welcomed interim measures introduced by the HSE, where each affected person by the absence of wig fittings is being provided with an additional funding of €80 to facilitate the purchase of up to 2 pieces of headwear. And I hope this measure will be of assistance to patients experiencing very additional difficulties caused by the current COVID-19 pandemic. And again, the HSE expects to finalise and implement the new guidelines in mid-2022.
Thank you very much, Minister.